Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping right into a vocal technique that you hear everywhere in modern music. It's called the mixed voice. And if you've ever heard singers in like pop or rock or maybe musical theater hitting those really high notes, but they sound strong and clear.
Yeah, powerful.
Powerful, exactly, without that kind of sudden, airy sound you sometimes get. Well, chances are they're using your mixed voice.
They absolutely are. And, to really get our heads around this key skill, we've been digging into the work of, well, two real giants in voice.
Okay.
There's Ingo Titze. He's deep into the science, the mechanics of how the voice actually works.
Right, the physics of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's Jeanette Levetri, who's a top expert in what's called CCM, or contemporary commercial music, vocal technique.
It's a practical application, too.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So our goal really in this deep dive is to sort of demystify this mixed voice thing. What is it? How does it work?
And maybe give people some pointers, right? Even if they're just starting out singing.
Yeah, exactly. Give you some practical ideas wherever you are on your vocal journey.
Okay, so mixed voice. The name itself, it kind of suggests a blend, right? But what are we actually hearing? What does that mean?
Well, think about it like this. You've got your chest voice.
Yeah.
That full sort of resonant sound down low.
Mm-hmm. Your speaking voice, kind of?
Pretty much. Then you've got head voice, often higher, maybe lighter, airier sometimes. Mixed voice is that sweet spot right in the middle.
The bridge.
Kind of, yeah. It lets you carry some of that chest voice power, that solidity, up higher without, straining or suddenly flipping into a totally different sound.
Okay. And Titze, you mentioned him, the scientist. He has a specific way of describing what our vocal cords are actually doing to make that blend happen.
He does, and it's really helpful. So imagine your vocal folds. They're like tiny curtains inside your throat, your larynx.
Okay.
In chest voice, those curtains close pretty firmly, fully. Makes a strong sound. In a really breathy head voice, maybe falsetto, they barely touch. Titze explains that for a good balanced mix, those folds, those curtains, they come together maybe halfway. It's a moderate closure. Not slammed shut, not wide open.
So it's not about just pushing harder.
No, exactly. That's a key thing. It's not about more force or more air necessarily. It's about finding that specific balance in the closure.
Which means the sound we actually make is also kind of in the middle.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's often described as somewhere between a really heavy, full-on belt sound and that light, often airy falsetto.
Okay.
So you get some power, some substance, but also that ease to go higher without all the breathiness you might associate with pure falsetto.
Right.
And what's really interesting is that laryngology research studying the voice box actually sees mix as its own distinct way the voice works. A phonatory mode, they call it.
Oh, wow. So it's not just less chest or more head.
Exactly. It's identified as a specific way to bridge those registers smoothly, without the breaks, without the gaps.
That makes so much sense why it's so vital for singers today. You need that consistency.
Totally. Pop, rock, R&B, musical theater, pretty much any contemporary style where singers need that flexibility and a reliable sound across their whole range. It's foundational.
Okay, so we've got the sound profile. Now let's look under the hood, so to speak. What's happening physiologically? With the muscles, the cords. I'm thinking of that larynx diagram again.
Right. So picture those vocal folds again. In mix, they're finding that halfway closed posture we talked about.
Not too tight, not too loose.
Exactly. It's that middle ground, tension and closure that creates the unique sound. And this is really important. Mix isn't like a third gear you shift into. It's not a totally separate register.
Ah, okay, so it's more of a transition.
Yes, think of it more like a smooth gradient, a sliding scale between your chest function and your head function.
So not like flipping a switch then.
Definitely not. And Titze's description of the feeling really gets at this. He says it should feel halfway between chest voice and falsetto.
The sensation itself is in the middle.
Right. And physiologically, what that involves is this balanced effort from the two main muscle groups in the larynx. You've got the TA muscles.
Chiroidinoid.
Yep, those are dominant in chest voice. They make the folds thicker and shorter. And then the CT muscles.
Cricothyroid.
Right, those stretch the folds, making them thinner, more active in head voice. Mix is about getting both of those muscle groups working together in coordination. Neither one totally takes over.
So they're sharing the load, kind of?
Precisely. Titze even gives this conceptual example. He might say on a certain note in mix, it could feel like maybe 30% chest mechanism, the TA, and 70% head mechanism, the CT.
Just an illustration, not a hard rule.
Exactly. It's just to give you the idea of that blend. And Love Theory, she puts it so simply, I love it. She says, mix is anything that is not absolutely chesty, or heady.
That cuts right through it.
Doesn't it? It's that zone where both the thicker chesty function and the thinner heady function are contributing.
That's actually really helpful. Now, this idea, mixed voice, it's not totally new, is it? Have scientists been looking at this for a while?
Oh yeah, for sure. There was some important early work, like a study by Sundberg and some others back in 1993. They actually compared operatic singing, belting, and what Laboratory was already calling mix.
And what did they find?
Well, crucially, they found that mix has its own aerodynamic signature, like how air flows, the pressure involved, and its own resonance strategy, how the sound bounces around in your throat and mouth.
So it wasn't just behaving like a quiet belt or a loud head voice?
Exactly. The key insight was that it seemed to be its own distinct vocal mode, physiologically speaking.
Interesting. Did that research touch on, like, vocal health?
Yes, that was a big implication. It started suggesting that maybe using a well-coordinated mix could be healthier for singing high and loud compared to just pushing the chest voice really hard, strained belting.
Because it's more balanced.
Right. By finding that balance in breath and vocal fold closure, you potentially reduce excessive pressure and strain. And newer stuff, like high-speed video of the vocal folds.
Yes.
Yeah, it confirms this. In mix, the folds have this intermediate closure pattern. They don't slam shut like in heavy belt, but they're not gapping like in falsetto either. It really has its own way of working.
Okay, so it's definitely its own thing physiologically. Got it. Now, the big question for listeners, maybe, how do you even start finding this if someone wants to explore it?
Right. Well, the first step is often just a mental shift. Like I said, stop thinking of rigid boxes, chest, mix, head.
Think continuum.
Exactly. Think sliding scale.
Mm-hmm.
The goal is to find that muscular balance between the TA and CT activity.
Mm-hmm.
And Titsy's advice here is really key. Avoid the extremes. Don't just stay in super heavy chest or super made head. You've got to explore that middle territory.
Like you need both ingredients to make the mixture.
Perfect analogy. And a practical way to start feeling it is maybe sing a few notes in your middle range. First, try to make them feel quite chesty, grounded. Then sing the same notes, but aim for a lighter, headier quality.
And see where they meet.
Yeah, pay attention to that transition area. Where do those feelings start to overlap or blend? And Lavetri makes a really useful point. If you already have a decent chest voice and a clear head voice,
The ends are strong.
right, then the mix often starts to emerge more naturally on those notes between them.
Oh, yeah.
She says you'll find mix when the middle pitches combine into a nice, round, solid sound that you can easily control. So strengthening the ends can actually help you build that bridge in the middle.
Okay, so find the connection point. What about, like, mental images or concepts? Anything that helps singers aim for that mixed feeling?
Yeah, there are a few useful ideas. One is register blending. Think of it like smoothly sliding a dimmer switch for lights, or maybe a seesaw. You're not flipping, you're gradually balancing.
So you want some chest quality and some head quality at the same time.
Exactly. Aiming for some of that chesty fullness, but letting in the head voice, lightness and ease, especially as you go higher. It's a merge, not a switch.
Okay, blending. What else?
Steady support is huge. Mixed voice doesn't usually need the massive push of belting or the almost no support of falsetto. It needs consistent, moderate airflow. And a relaxed throat is key.
So no tension.
Right. And Titsy actually points to those exercises like lip trills, humming, or singing through a straw, semi-occluded vocal tract exercises.
Oh, yeah, I heard of those.
They naturally encourage that balanced vocal fold closure and steady airflow that mix really thrives on. Think of it like speaking clearly, with support, but musically.
Using the exercise to find the physical feeling. Smart.
Another big one is forward focus. This is about resonance. Feeling the sound vibrate more in the front of your face mask area, nose, cheekbones.
Not stuck in the throat.
Definitely not.
Oh.
Keep the throat feeling open and relaxed. Some people find a little bit of twang.
Yeah.
It's a slight narrowing higher up in the throat, helps bring brightness and focus. Imaging the sound going forward can help.
So shaping the sound after the vocal cords is important too.
Absolutely. And linked to that is vowel consistency. Try singing up a scale on just one vowel, like ah or e. Start in chest, slide up smoothly.
And listen for breaks.
Yeah, listen for sudden shifts in quality. If you can keep the vowel sounding pretty much the same, relatively pure and consistent as you ascend, you're probably moving into mix smoothly. Leverty calls this resonance tuning. Getting the vowel shape right helps the mix carry.
Okay, so it's really about finding that smooth merge, that balance point.
Exactly. And Titsy's point about feeling halfway between chest and head is so central. You might mentally cue yourself like, okay, I want that big belt sound, but I'm going to keep it feeling easy and open. Or maybe I want this high note, but I'm going to keep some substance, some core in the sound.
Chest mix, head mix, like those concepts you mentioned.
Yeah, they can be useful starting points mentally, but the goal is always that seamless, continuous sound. No flips, no breaks.
Okay, so someone's playing around with these ideas, doing the slides, focusing forward. How do they know? How do you actually recognize, that's mix? What does it feel like? What does it sound like to you?
Yeah, that self-awareness is crucial. And the clues come from both sensation, what you feel, and sound, what you hear. A lot of singers describe mix as feeling um, balanced and smooth.
Smooth transition, right.
Yes, you don't get that sudden jolt or flip into head voice.
Mm.
And the feeling is often described as solid, grounded, but also free, effortless almost.
Not effortless, maybe, but less effortful than straining.
Exactly. Titz's idea of moderate vocal closure connects to this feeling of moderate engagement. You feel a gentle firmness, maybe, but no squeezing, no jamming, no strain.
Okay, so it shouldn't feel tight or pushed.
Right, and you might feel chest resonance on lower mix notes, but as you go higher, it smoothly transitions to feeling more vibration in your head or face, but it's controlled. It doesn't just suddenly disappear or become thin.
And coming down from head voice.
It should gain warmth and body as it enters the mix zone, again, smoothly. Lovetry talks about mix feeling rounded and centered, especially in the middle range, that nice, round, solid sound, easily controlled.
Centered, solid, controlled.
Yeah. And practically, you might notice those vibrations buzzing gently in your mask area, your throat feels open, and there's no sense of strain or excessive breathiness leaking out.
Okay, that's the internal feeling. What about the sound itself? What might someone else hear, or what might you hear on a recording?
Acoustically, mix often has this quality of warmth, the core sound you associate with chest voice, but combined with the clarity and ring, the overtones of head voice.
Best of both worlds.
Kind of, yeah. A trained ear notices that the power, the fullness, stays there on higher notes, but without sounding pushed or shouty like a strained belt can. And it doesn't sound thin or weak like pure falsetto often does.
And research backs this up.
Yeah, studies show mix tends to have a more balanced harmonic spectrum, the different frequencies in the sound compared to pure chest belt or pure head falsetto. And the absolute key identifier acoustically is that seamless transition through the passaggio, that break area. There shouldn't be an audible break or flip. It sounds connected, smooth.
Okay, so if we were to list some key markers, things a singer can really listen and feel for to say, yep, I think this is it.
Definitely focus on ease versus effort. Mix should feel relatively easy compared to pushing your chest voice high. If you feel a big surge of effort or your voice suddenly gets thin and breathy going up, you're likely not in a balanced mix.
Comfortable effort, maybe?
Yeah, comfortable, sustainable effort. Maybe a slight lift feeling in the throat, but no pinching. That description someone shared once, head voice in the back, but the mouth shape of a belt, is kind of cool.
Huh. Explain that.
It's just keeping that grounded feeling, maybe the open mouth posture of belting, but allowing the larynx itself to function with more of the freedom and stretch associated with head voice. It's an interesting image.
It is. Okay. What else? Tone quality.
Tone should be rounded and clear. Not harsh and forced, not weak and muffled. Again, Lovetry's solid sound, easily controlled. Aim for brightness and ring, but with substance underneath. Avoid strain, avoid breathiness.
Got it. And resonance. Where do you feel it?
You should feel vibrations, ideally, in both the face mask area and some connection to the chest. Maybe a gentle hum down low in the mix, shifting to more of a shimmer up high in the face. But that connection remains.
Both present?
Yes. And your larynx ideally feels pretty stable, not shooting way up or dropping way down. And just critically listening, does it sound like you're just belting? No. Does it sound like thin falsetto? No. If you're holding on to fullness and power as you go up without a big, obvious gear shift, that's a really good sign you're finding your mix.
And if you hear that clear flip or feel a squeeze,
That tells you the balance isn't quite there yet. Keep exploring that smooth transition.
so it really comes back to that smoothness and that feeling Titsi described being right in the middle.
Exactly. He stresses mix is exactly between head and chest, and you should maintain that feel of being in between. It takes practice to recognize it consistently, but that internal sense of being halfway is probably the ultimate subjective clue.
This has been super clarifying, really helps take the mystery out of it. So, just to wrap up, what are the absolute key takeaways for someone listening?
I think the biggest thing is understanding mix isn't some magical third register. It's really about balance coordination, skillfully blending your chest voice mechanics, that TA muscle activity, and your head voice mechanics, the CT activity.
Creating one continuous sound.
Precisely. And the work of Titzi and Levray really underscores this. Titzi shows us it's about finding that functional middle ground in vocal fold deduction, how they come together. And Lovetry and CCM Pedagogy show us how to systematically train that balance.
So for listeners, the advice is maybe explore that feeling of moderate closure, aim for that forward resonance, listen for that round, solid sound Lovetry talks about in the middle.
Absolutely. And the payoff is huge. Developing a reliable mix means you can sing high, loud, expressively, whatever the style demands,
Right.
without hurting yourself, and with a tone that sounds really good, really compelling.
Right. So here's a final thought to leave you with. Now that you have this deeper insight into the mechanics, the sensations of mixed voice, how might consciously exploring that balance unlock something new for you? Maybe new possibilities, more freedom, just in how you use your voice day to day, even if you don't sing professionally. It's all about finding that healthy, resonant, efficient middle ground. Thanks for exploring this deep dive with us.